The meeting will please come to order now.
Our Father who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this trespass,
we forgive those who
trespass
trespass
against
against
us.
us.
Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and glory, forever. Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll out votes that I Yeah. Okay, thank you, dear.
Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Miller,
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Etherly.
Here.
Dr. Miller, Sister Messina.
Only have 3 items to talk about today on the agenda, and everybody should have the materials. And a proposal to potentially repeal the Street and Sanitation Department, a new base pay ordinance, or not, I want to, excuse me, not repeal the Street and Sanitation Department, repeal the Public Works position. A 2026 base pay ordinance that is updated and amended, given position reviews, and then a 2026 proposed budget as well. So those are the only 3 items that we'll be talking about today. And everybody, does anybody not have one of those items in front of them? Okay. All right. So to start, if you will look at the first ordinance, and this one is not dated, it should be at the top of your pack. This is an ordinance repealing the Public Works position and merging street and sanitation departments. I felt it was appropriate to start off with this particular ordinance because in the updated base pay ordinance, there is reflected a merged street and sanitation department. So for that to take place, this would need to be one of the first things that we do to repeal the public or replace the Public Works position, get rid of that position, and also merge the Street and Sanitation Department. By doing and accepting this particular ordinance, we're not necessarily agreeing to the base pay ordinance yet. We're not necessarily agreeing to the proposed budget for 2026 yet. I do think, as I've said in previous meetings, combining the Street and Sanitation Department is going to go a great length towards saving us some money in terms of eliminating one director role and one foreman role. And I shouldn't say eliminating one director role, but combining 2 director roles. I will read the title for the viewers at home, and so that everyone around the table can also go through that together. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Helena-West Helena, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance repealing the Public Works Ordinance, creating a combined street and sanitation department for the City of Helena-West Helena. And so, if we were to move forward with this today, we would officially have one street and sanitation department. And with the proposal that I shared with you last week, that's much more of an efficient use of equipment, much faster public services. We'd be able to form a bigger team and smaller teams that fend out into the community to do different tasks. So I would love to open the floor to discussion on this matter. And if you missed it, I wanted to start here because the base pay ordinance, the updated one, does reflect a combined street and sanitation department. So that's what that proposal looks like.
Just a quick question. I was under the impression that we were thinking about contemplating salary ranges. So is this the absolute bottom salary that they would make?
Well, that's the proposed salary, given the nature of the work. So that, I mean, we'd have to vote on it, but that is the proposed salary. And I, and I guess for clarity, when you say range, what did you mean for all of the positions across the city or just this one in particular?
I was thinking more so along the lines of maybe, I know in particular, the street and sanitation director, some of the more top positions, the chief of staff position.
Oh, I think you went a little far. So right now, we're looking at the ordinance. The ordinance that is proposing, yeah, that one.
This one?
Yeah. So even if we accepted this ordinance proposal, this would not tie us to that base pay ordinance. It doesn't tie us to the proposed 2026 budget proposal that's also on your desk. This is its own ordinance because right now, we still are operating under the 2022 base pay ordinance, which at that time it had an established public works position, and that made the director for the street departments, landfill, and sanitation all deputy directors. And so for efficiency, I don't think that's necessary, given just the structure there. I also know that doing this merger saves money. That's the point I keep hitting on. It saves money as well. This isn't a proposal for this reason alone, obviously, but it also isn't how the city has been functioning. Like, I know that we have the 2022 base pay ordinance that has a public works position on it. That hasn't been the structure, and so I think that this potential ordinance would mirror the structure that we have and the structure that will work as well.
No, I think it's, for me, I understand the purpose of getting rid of that global public works director person thingy, whatever, because each one of these department heads should be, involved and responsible for their department.
Mm-hmm.
in my
Yeah.
opinion. So I understand that. I went a little bit too fast.
Thank you. And that's also, when I say efficiency, that's pretty much exactly what I mean. I think that if each department that I named, landfill, street and sanitation, if they all have a director, I don't think we need a middle person to then manage those directors. And so it's money that could be reallocated into a more useful place and just a different structure that would allow us to have better public services in those areas. And I know you just came in, Dr. Miller. We're looking at the ordinance that potentially repeals the the public works position. Mm-hmm. Is there any more discussion on this particular proposal?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. Again, I've maintained that the departments have already been combined, but it had Public Works as a person who was in charge of the departments. And so I think that was too big of a job as it was created. I think I said that before. I think it was foolish to think that somebody could manage all of those different departments. And so I don't have a problem with going with the director, even the combination of the departments. I think the way to do it is not by separate ordinance, but with base pay. Base pay sets the structure. And so I think when you set the organizational structure, these are the people in the department, and this is who's at the top, and these are the people who are under. The base pay ordinance is what does that. The reason why I kept saying let's address the base pay ordinance is because we keep having these single ordinances that keep coming in. And so every time you do a single ordinance, and you made some changes in base pay here. But there's some other things. For example, this doesn't include the police department. There's a separate ordinance for that. There's a separate ordinance for the chief. There's all of these little pieces of paper that for me, should be included in one document so that you can look at one document and you can see the organizational structure for the city. Every time we do a separate ordinance, you add another piece of paper. And so if you were to take every ordinance, every base pay ordinance change that's happened in the last year and a half, I could spread them out across this table here. But if you do it here, you just have 2 pages. You have every position, 3 pages, I'm sorry, you have every position. This is front and back, so it's actually 4 or 5. But I'm just saying, it would be in one document, in one ordinance. As I read this, I see an ordinance repealing the Public Works ordinance. Public Works was created by base pay ordinance. And so there's no, that I remember, unless the clerk corrects me, there's no single ordinance that created Public Works.
We have one.
There's a single ordinance that creates
From
Public Works?
2019.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you got to repeal that, and your base pay ordinance is still in your base pay ordinance, so you still have that. I'm just saying, for me, it's just cleaner. One ordinance, change the titles are changing, if the numbers are changing, just do one ordinance that addresses every department in the city. And you have one document, you do it all at once. Because if we do it this way, we'll be coming back and we'll be addressing some other ones, and some other ones, and some other ones. You just say- Go ahead.
No, I just had a question for clarity. So when you say other departments, are you suggesting that there are other changes that other departments need to make? Because the reason why I'm making this proposal is because one of the main focuses that I have is how do we save money? And so, like, so I guess what I'm asking is, are you saying that what we're doing for the street and sanitation needs to include?
No, we've already made changes to this. There are already some ordinances that change base pay. So here's what happened on the ground. We had a base pay ordinance. There was a lawsuit. And then when changes needed to be made to base pay over the last couple of years, because people were hesitant to vote for an entire ordinance, we would do one line. Kind of like you proposed, you had an ordinance a couple of weeks ago, we had one line. And so so this is what controls, or this one from 22. But then every time we passed a one-line base pay ordinance, we didn't adopt an entire new ordinance. We amended one line. So if you wanted to look, for example, and see what the base pay is, for example, in the police department, there's 2 that were done in the police department. One affected entry level, one affected the chief. There's 2 ordinances that address that, but it's not going to be in the standing base pay ordinance. So to figure that out, you need this one, you need those 2. There was another one, I can't remember which department it was, but there was another one. So there may be 3 or 4. If you add this one to the mix, there'll be another one. So you'll need this one, you'll need those, you'll need this one. If all the changes are made here, then you have one document, one ordinance that cleanly states what all the positions are, what the base entry-level pay is. It has every change. Everything is covered in one document. But right now, you got a series of documents that you have to look at, because you can't get it all from one document.
Mr. Ether, can I ask you,
Yes, sir.
I know some of the employees' pay, particularly department heads, right? Some were changed by ordinance. Some were given a raise. Like, I don't remember if Chief Sanders, did he get a raise to 7, or y'all changed the base pay?
No, we changed it.
The
That
base
was
pay?
when Ms. Ramsey was standing in the mayor's position. We had a meeting. He came in, he made a presentation, he had been acting as chief. We had the long discussion about, we had been paying the chiefs $70,000 for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But the base pay, we had never amended the base pay.
Okay.
We went through the history of it, how it was a clerical error and oversight, because we were receiving the money from the Port Authority to supplement the chief's pay, and that it should be right on paper. So we did a one-line ordinance that amended the chief's base pay to 70 so that he was on par with whatever every chief had made in the last 10 years.
I believe there was something that you passed it before Chief Sanders, but it never got put into the base pay.
We never addressed it by ordinance. And see, this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying we haven't been here before. I'm saying we have an opportunity right now to start fresh, particularly with the financial condition that we're in, to start fresh with a clean base pay ordinance so we see everything on paper and we can clean it up. Remember when we did a separate base pay ordinance to raise the entry level of police officers?
Yeah.
That was a separate ordinance. And so none of that is reflected in the 22 ordinance. So you need the 22, you need at least 2 from 25, and it seems like we did one in 24. If my memory is correct, seems like we did one in 24. I don't remember what it was for. But to look at it, you got to have all of these documents.
Yeah.
And the reason why I went that way is because people were hesitant to vote for base pay amendments because we had all that litigation going on. But I'm saying now, going into 26, we can clean it all up. And that's my only position on this. We can clean it all up, have a clean base pay ordinance that has every position for the city, has a pay. The structure will be included in that base pay ordinance so you see what the structure is for each department. And now we don't have all these pieces of paper.
And it wasn't but a handful of those positions, right? It wasn't in 3, 4, maybe, or 5, maybe. It wasn't a lot of them, I don't believe.
It wasn't a lot,
Yeah.
but then the other thing is if you go through base pay and you look at what we have on the ground now, we have in some positions, I think when I looked at the budget, you may have some positions that have more people than were in the base pay. And so base pay creates the position. So I'm saying the way that it needs to be cleaned up. What you have on the ground right now, the way that you clean it up is with your base pay ordinance, which authorizes a position. I think it's fire has more people at a certain level than were authorized. It could be police. One of those departments has more people at a level than you have positions allocated in base pay. So you got to go back and change that. Every time there's a discrepancy between what you actually have in the city and what's in the budget, at least it needs to be authorized in the base pay ordinance. And so I'm just saying, now is from our perspective, is the perfect time to clean it all up so we know exactly how many employees we have, how many positions we have, how many people we have in those positions, and then that it matches the budget that we pass.
Yeah.
Because these outgrowths, we can't really afford to absorb those now with our financial condition. And I think I keep saying for me, it just makes sense to clean it up right now while we have an opportunity.
So that's what, and to your point, that's what this document is, the 2026 one. So, and this was crafted by talking to every department head over the last week, understanding who's on payroll, what they were hired for, what jobs they're doing, and where that job lined up in relation to the 2022 base pay ordinance, which is why I passed that out. So the 2022 base pay ordinance is on your table because that's what we're currently operating with. And the 2026 one, what we found throughout this week is that there were some slight differences, and there weren't as many as I thought there were going to be. You had, and we can shuffle the order, but I was going to wait to get to the 2026 pay ordinance, base pay ordinance. The changes from this to 2022, which account for what we agreed to in 2022. HR, for administration, there were 2 changes that make structural sense. HR clerical, that role becomes the executive secretary. That is the role through which the secretary was hired, and so that role was a role that had a person in that position. It just wasn't filled, and that role was basically repurposed to be an executive secretary. The chief of staff salary was another noticeable change, and I also bolded these in the 2026 so that they can kind of jump out a little bit more. The chief of staff salary moves from 32 to 68. That is a concession that I'm asking for, given the amount of work that goes into that position and the qualifications that that person brings to that role. For district court, there was one clerk and 3 deputy clerks. The clerk basically acts in the function of a chief court clerk, so there's a renaming of clerk to chief court clerk. The police dispatcher supervisor position was removed through the deal that Mr. Etherly worked out with the county. We no longer are responsible for dispatch services at all. The water, there were 2 changes there. This was the first place that we saw where there was a position that was created, but what wasn't necessarily aligned with the base pay ordinance, and that was the establishment of an executive assistant position. We have somebody that's been in that position for at least 2 years, is that so? 2 years or so. So you will see that change on there. Office managers became finance officers, and I could have used the language renamed. That is the nature of the work that they do through paying the bills and accounts payable. So making that title a little bit more reflective of the work that they do. The public works director position is removed, again, for the sake of saving money, also efficiency. Street and sanitation, you will see that that is one change itself as a merged department. Salary for the merged street and sanitation department, you'll see that that is established at $70,000, and then deputy directors become a single merged director role. So those are the 3 changes you'll see there. And then landfill has a few changes as well, with those being the deputy director becomes director, being that there's no public works position anymore. Additional operator was needed for the tonnage that they are taking in out there to make sure that they have the proper hands on deck. And then a deputy director position was renamed to foreman. So through collecting the information from each department head this week, we accounted for the positions that were filled. We talked to, we matched where are we with the base pay ordinance, because we want to make sure that we're in compliance with where the base pay ordinance that we say we're operating off of. So essentially the 2026 base pay ordinance was carefully put together with that information in mind. That document, and that's why I did the 1-pager so that you could just kind of see those changes pretty quickly without having to go through each other 4 pages.
I have some questions. So if we start with the mayor's office, and I see that the base pay is 48, the HR director's 32, those are consistent. So you're saying the executive secretary and the HR clerical, that's the same thing?
Essentially, yes, ma'am.
Essentially,
Yeah.
okay. But when we get to chief of staff and we have 32 in the 2022, and it jumps to 68, that 68 is $20,000 more than the mayor's position.
So,
And I'm not sure I understand why.
so I guess that comes to my appointment here through this role. So statutorily, when I took the role, through my appointment, I was making what the previous mayor was making. Didn't necessarily request the salary when I took the role, but through looking up statutes, you can't change an elected official, appointed official's salary. So the jump for the chief of staff is simply because of the work. The chief of staff position, I think that position has had a reputation around it. Essentially what was done was that position, as it was mentioned, I think in a meeting before, was derived from the public works position, where you had a public works person that was supposed to be over street sanitation in the landfill, and then that was renamed to be chief of staff. A chief of staff position is a completely legitimate position, but I don't think how it was used in the time that it existed here in the last few years was how a typical chief of staff position operates. This individual is reporting on grants. They're making sure that the agenda of the mayor's office is moving forward. They are doing, in so many ways, the chief of staff and myself are operating as IT tech as well as mayor and chief of staff. So we just adopt, and that role is a very flexible role. That 68 is reflective of the qualifications and the amount of work. Yeah.
Can I get some insight, Ms. Miller? Okay, so you're asking about the chief of staff role and the increase in pay, right? That was your question, right? The chief of staff and the increase from 32 in the base pay to 68. So in 2022, December of 2022, City Council passed a base pay ordinance that increased the salary of the chief of staff from whatever it was, I guess from 32 to 65,000. And so it passed in 2022.
Wait a minute, say that again.
In 2022,
Yeah.
the City Council passed an ordinance that increased the chief of staff's salary from 32,000 to 65,000. Now, it was later voided.
I don't
but
recall that. I don't recall that. You have to show me that.
Do you recall?
I didn't vote for it, but the majority, the city council.
No, you weren't.
Majority voted for it.
You weren't sworn in yet.
Okay, oh, that was the mid, gotcha.
That's a
Gotcha.
misstatement
No.
about what happened. What
No.
you're saying is a misstatement.
No, what I'm saying is
Gotcha.
the base pay was
The base pay was changed, but the position was also moved.
that position wasn't moved.
Yes,
That position has remained in the mayor's office.
I understand, but I'm telling you about the discussions around it.
Well,
The
I mean, I went and
discussion, the
listened to
discussions
the-
around it were that the public works person, this person would perform the duties that had been performed by the public works person. That was what took place at the meeting. And that was because that public works position went away, but the chief of staff was to perform those duties. That was the way it was presented to the council. That's why I keep saying, follow the person and not the title, because if you follow these titles, you'll get trapped in it.
But the public works director was removed from that base pay.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Right.
And
Uh-huh.
the city council then placed a person in street and sanitation director and a landfill director
That's right.
to perform the duties that
All-
that the public works person used to perform.
Exactly, but I'm just telling you what the discussions were. Now, what happened on the ground is different from what the discussion was, except towards the end. I guess
Yeah.
it ended up working out the way it did because we lost the sanitation director.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the discussion was that you replaced the public works person with the chief of staff, and the chief of staff would kind of be the overall person to direct those departments. At least that's the presentation that was made to the council.
Okay.
So that's why public works went away in the
So-
base pay.
I just don't know of any city-
I'm creating the budget, right?
Right.
I mean, but I'm using the 22
Right.
ordinance,
But you said base pay is changed to 68?
Yeah.
22?
65.
But it's not changed on this one? Why?
Because the ordinance that was passed was voided by district court.
It was passed through the body, but given the nature of how it was passed, it was repealed.
So district court voided it. So, but what I did was, when I created the budget, I had the 40, I guess. Yeah, I had that ordinance to create the budget. The budget was funding that 4022 ordinance. So the budget that was passed in 2023 was actually funding the 4022 ordinance. And so when I'm doing it, when I'm producing the budget, I'm making sure, like Mr. Etherly said, trying to make sure that the budget correlates to the budget correlates to the base pay ordinance, that one, and we started getting news from district court that it may not be, they would have some stuff about it being vetoed, right? So I'm trying to be careful to make sure that the budget aligns with the ordinance that they passed, 4022, and that 4022 didn't vary too much from 2022. So when I'm doing the funding, I'm trying to make sure as many positions match as possible. So the way I created the budget was to make sure that the chief of staff position was the chief of staff position, the human resources person was the human resources person, and things like that, trying to make sure they correlate. So when I'm creating it, I'm putting the chief of staff in the mayor's office like it's been since I've been here since 2015. And also, from my experience, being here since 2015, the mayor has always used, that position has been in the mayor's office. That position has always been like a jack of all trades. This mayor may use this position to have his chief of staff do this. This mayor has his chief of staff do that. This mayor has a chief of staff do that. Because Ms. Helen did things that Lynn Chadwick didn't do.
That was totally different.
What I'm saying is it's at the mayor's discretion. And that's how the mayor, since I've been here, the mayors have been using that chief of staff position in various positions. No chief of staff before that was managing grants and doing drawdowns and keeping up with the asset list. So all I'm saying is when I created the budget that funded that 4022 budget, I'm keeping chief of staff and all of this stuff in that office for that purpose. The only thing that changed was Ms. Minnie Sanders was in the Human Resources Secretary role. And I talked to the mayor about this too. So this isn't just me. I was talking to the mayor, telling him how I was funding everything. So the executive secretary, we used that position that Ms. Sanders was in. She was in there till sometime in 2022. So it was only a few months, then they filled it. And so those roles, that position has been consistent since I've been here in 2025. That role of chief of staff has been in the mayor's office. The mayor has used that person to do whatever they want. They've given them many different functions. Mayor Franklin may have given him those duties. The duties didn't change anywhere else. The duties didn't, the base pay doesn't reflect what the duties are. We don't have any, what were you asking for all the time? Job descriptions. We don't, that hasn't changed. So that position has been the same position since 2015. And it's just like I said, the mayor can use a position. I've always thought, and the mayors have always seemed to me to use that position as like a jack of all, a Swiss Army knife.
Well, the issue I have with that, and the reason why I keep trying to come back to job descriptions, is because there is a big variance between possibly somebody just coming out of school and somebody who's been working for 20 years, possibly.
Yep.
I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying there's a possibility. And so when you start off with a base pay of $68,000 for a chief of staff, which is, if you say they're a person that wears a lot of hats, then I think, to me, that's a bit much. I mean, and I appreciate the fact that the person who's operating in this position is doing a lot for the mayor, and I get that. But I'm saying if we're going to create a base pay, I think that looks a little off kilter. You've got 68 for a chief of staff, but you're paying your mayor 48 as a base pay? That makes no sense to me. It just, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just saying that makes no sense.
But like I said, the base pay at that particular time, if you want to talk about the base pay, you're saying, but it went from 32 to 65.
Okay.
There's no more off kilter than going from 32 to 68. They're
Okay,
in the same
but, I mean,
ballpark.
I don't know.
And the mayor's salary changed to $70,000.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that may have happened. It probably should not have happened, but let's say, okay, it did. What I'm saying is that the purpose of tonight is to clean it up.
That's right.
That's what the purpose of tonight is. I think all of this, well, we did this and we did, I understand history. I think all that's worth understanding. I appreciate it. I don't understand all of it, but what I do understand is like what Attorney Etherly said, this is an opportunity to fix it.
Mr. Mayor, we need to go back to basics. We need to go back to the original. That's our problem. That's what got us all in trouble with all this high-paying salaries. We've got to cut that out. We got to stop it.
And so, and I understand, I think that, again, if you, looking at the 2026 proposed base pay ordinance, the base pay salaries are largely, I would say 98% the same. They're 98% the same. I believe from being here in 4 months, looking at our financial reports, salary alone isn't the issue. We've had just what's contributed to our financial situation currently. In part, I think it's been arguably more ill-timed bonuses or raises, ill-timed, because I don't think those are bad things, but are we doing them responsibly is the question. Just as much as I think we would like to jump to salary, it's the amount of overspending we've done in a lot of areas, claims that have gone unanswered and just not been able to reel those in, which we are now. We have a pretty good list and accurate list of who we owe, what we owe, and making sure that we're operating at a level where we can pay that.
Looking at what you're proposing, the 26 base pay and the 22, let's just go look at the chief of staff. The old one was 32, and you're more than doubling the base pay of the chief of staff. You're only making a few changes in the thing, but you're more than doubling it.
And I understand that. I do want to note it's at the same time less than what that position was paid out less than a year ago. That's less than that amount. I don't, and I'll go on the record every time to say that I think I'm not saying that every city employee should be making $100,000. I think that, that's absorbent. But I do believe when you have a competent individual, you pay that person and pay them responsibly. Paying none of the proposed salary changes, which again, only two changes are on here for the 2026 budget or base pay proposal show a salary change. The street and sanitation department, that's covered through merging those two director roles and the foreman role. And then as well with the chief of staff, that's also within our budget. Those two positions won't necessarily cause the city to not pay our bills. And we're getting in the process two really highly competent individuals. And so.
Hey, Mr. Turner, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor before Mayor Whitfield was appointed, how much was his salary?
Mayor Tim,
Sir?
No, I think
Mayor Franklin or?
Mayor Franklin, how much was his salary?
I know, that's why I was gonna bring that up.
Yours was probably, yours was zero,
I
wasn't
was
it?
gonna bring that up. It was $70,000, and he had a $12,000 vehicle allowance.
Okay,
And car expense too.
okay, so
That's the
70,
vehicle
so he had
allowance.
Another
70,
10,000, wasn't it?
okay, so he had
12.
70,000.
12,
Okay, so he had 70,000 and then plus 12,000 car allowance.
Yes,
Okay, which was $1,000. Okay.
yeah.
so he was getting 82,000.
Okay, so about 82,000. Okay, and then the chief of staff, what was he paid?
I believe his initial pay was $65,000.
Okay,
And at one point, that changed at one point, I believe.
yeah.
I thought he was getting 80,000.
Yeah,
Who?
I think he, at one point, he
Oh, okay.
got an extra stipend. I'm not sure what it was considered, but
See, that's
That was
what
for
I
the
mean.
public, that was for the public works though, wasn't it?
No, yeah, I think
Wasn't it
he
a
had taken on some
$15,000
additional
stipend for public works?
administrative duties in the water department.
Yeah, and how much was that?
I think it was 15 that I
Okay,
think, yeah,
okay. So that,
yeah.
so 65 plus 15,000, okay. So that's what, 80,000? Okay, so 70, thank you. So chief of staff, he was paid roughly 70,000, and the mayor was paid 82,000.
Yes.
Okay. And so in this base pay ordinance, the mayor's position would be 48,000 compared to the 82,000. And the chief of staff position of 70,000 would now be 68,000.
But that's what the base pay says.
Understood.
So effectively, but he's making more than base pay because he took on the same salary.
He took on the what?
I mean,
same salary.
yeah, the same salary as the
Same
foreman.
with-
salary
through-
as the mayor?
yes, ma'am, through the appointment, yeah,
And you get to call out also?
yes.
And so, this is something different. It's two different things. I'm glad you brought this up. So one, the other increase in pay was the deputy court clerk. And I believe when she was hired, she was tacitly, it was told to her, I think the council tacitly agreed to bring her up to what the person who had retired, up to her salary, but it's just, we just never, well, you guys never got to it. So that's why that salary is increased. I don't know exactly how much it is for the chief deputy clerk. And another issue is that we tried to, so the mayor is getting paid for the mayoral duties that he's taken on. He was appointed. Mr. Etherly wasn't, I don't know, he was appointed a judge. He had to do what he had to do. Right. You know, he was almost forced by the court to do it. And so we were trying to, and I know I forgot to put it in the budget, but we were trying to compensate him under the mayor's authority if we could get under 5,000. But the way it worked out, it was over 5,000. I think it was closer to $9,000. So that's something that should be in the budget, that the mayor has requested that Mr. Etherly get that, I don't want to call it a stipend, but that pay while he was in that role. And so that has been, that's a mistake that should be in there. So those are the only two things that
And let me say this, I have had no discussions about this whatsoever.
no.
It's all new to me. All right?
No, he hadn't asked, he hadn't mentioned it or anything like that to us.
Though I might say, I haven't been as flexible on talking about people's pay, right? Because I know what I did for nothing, right? So my flexibility on discussing people's pay just hasn't been here.
Yeah.
But I did not talk about that with anybody. I think the important thing that I would say to everybody is, I think if you use what we did as your measuring stick, you're starting off on the wrong foot. What we did got us where we are. I think you got to wash that out completely and start over, and start new, based on what we actually have. I think these numbers ought to be structured based on what we have, not what we did, because we can make it look real good if we talked about what we did. Yeah, we got rid of all of these positions, and this is less than this, and this is less than that, but the question is, what do we have? And so I hear all the discussions going around about removing, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Turner, about public works and chief of staff. The result is the same, that public works went away and then it came back, or however you title it, the result is the same. But at the same time, these numbers need to be based on hard numbers that we know we can make.
That's right.
Because I lose sleep at night. I told Ms. Ramsey this a couple weeks ago. I lose sleep at night when I think about the IRS and LAFI and APRs and all of those numbers that I know actually exist and those obligations that we have every month or every quarter. And so I think these numbers need to reflect what we actually have, not what we used to do. Because if we compare to what we used to do, there's at least a possibility that we end up in a ditch somewhere.
So let me, when you say the numbers we have, what are you referring to? The budget, what we have, as far as the budget is concerned? Because I budgeted for what the salaries are, right? Or are you talking about the base pay? They should reflect what we have, or are you talking about both of them?
Best way I can say it is, you know how budgets go. We start off every year and we have a balanced budget. And 6 months into this year, this happened, that happened, the other thing happened. But we have some basic obligations that need to match up with our actual revenue and expenses as we know them to be today.
Yeah.
We can hope that we have revenue that, one source that generates a certain amount of revenue, but where are we right now? And the reality is we're still struggling. Every week, every month. And I think we have to just,
Chill
we
out.
have to recognize it, yeah, and accept it. That's all. I want these numbers to match up with the money that's coming into the bank next week and the week after and the week after, not on projections that we may or may not make. And we know this never goes like we want it to. We had a garbage truck that got hit from behind in September, and it was catastrophic. When we have problems in this city, because we don't have money, it tends to multiply more than it would for somebody who's financially better off than we are. Simple things become catastrophes for us. And so I just think we have to take that into account. If I may, while I'm still talking, I looked at the base pay, and on this 2026 draft, the police department does not have the chief, the new pay is 70. It doesn't have what we increased the entry-level officers to, so there needs to be some amendments there.
Yeah, we talked to him today, and I got in the system and found out what that base pay was. So we're gonna make those changes.
Yeah, but it was a separate ordinance, and that's.
That's I didn't realize it. So we make those changes. Does the council want me to tentatively put the pay in for Mr. Etherly?
Of course not.
Well, I mean, I could put it in.
Look, they remained silent on me for 93 days, all right? I didn't ask anybody. I did not ask anybody at this table to do a thing. I'll tell y'all, I had to hire additional help at my office just to be able to come over here. It cost me money. I didn't get a notice. I didn't get word that I was about to be the mayor of Helena, temporary mayor of Helena. But I'm not asking anybody to do anything tonight. Everybody sat quiet on me for 3 months. If they want to do it, they'll do it. If they don't, they don't. All right? And I'll live. I'll be alive tomorrow. I hope. God willing. The creek don't rise and all that stuff. It opens. So.
Is there any other discussion on the base pay ordinance or changes that are reflected in it?
What?
What is the entry officers patrol officers supposed to be?
35. Around approximately 35, and once they pass the academy, 40, somewhere around 40. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, 40. Yeah, when they pass the academy, 35 when they come in. So another thing that I'm unsure about, and Chief has asked me before, I couldn't really give him an answer because it was so convoluted that I didn't really understand what was going on. But what the budget for the officers that were here before, that aren't part of the COPS grant, in some kind of way, if you get so many police officers, if you meet a certain threshold, then those people get so-and-so, so-and-so. I don't know. I just can't remember
We did say
I
that.
don't remember what happened, but what I'm saying needs to be reflected in the budget, because all I have in the budget is what they are currently being paid. So, and I think I asked Mr. Etherly, and he was kind of like,
What was the question?
you know, about the police officers, and they had to meet a certain threshold, and then the other.
I'd have to go back and look at the meeting on that. I know we said
It's
we
10 or
would
11.
do something that maybe we didn't do, but I don't know what the stipulations were. I think it was 11 officers, but I don't, you know,
It was 11.
there were so many concerns about ability to make that payroll at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
We tried to balance bringing in new officers, and then there was maybe some agreements that were made, but I think at this point, just gotta look at the numbers and see. And let me throw this in, because I'm looking at it and it's on my mind. In the fire department, on the base pay, there's no battalion chief, but we have a battalion chief. So that position needs to be added to the base pay.
You didn't add it to yours? Man,
I thought,
I thought it was on the 26th.
What is it, where in the rank is battalion? Is that after assistant chief?
Yes.
Sir. He would be third in charge in the fire department, but I don't think it's ever been in the base pay. It's not in the 22 base pay, battalion
No,
chief.
I think it was in there I
Ma-
think y'all removed it a long time
I
ago.
remember seeing it. I remember seeing it.
I think it was in there when I got here in 15, but I think a couple of years after that, y'all took it out.
And to my fellow council members, I love y'all like I did last year. Whatever that may mean.
Yeah, I mean, but those were my thoughts on Mr. Etherly, because he was always coming to my office every now and then asking for financial information, but when he got appointed, I mean, he kind of like, he hit the ground running. Sometimes I didn't want to open my door sometimes.
He didn't sleep for 90 days.
So, but, yeah, he did. And so, but like I said, I spoke with the mayor, and I don't want, I don't put words in his mouth, but he kind of came to the agreement that he believed that he should be compensated for his time as the mayor.
I agree.
I do too.
That's what I want.
say it again?
Yeah, on the old base pay, showed 9 dispatchers
Yeah, that's got to
that
come
we
out.
had last year.
Are we paying dispatchers?
We don't have
We
dispatchers.
don't have any.
So on the new one, why do we have dispatchers, 9 of them at $22,880?
Adrian, they didn't address the police department, is what it looks like to me, because it's got a lot that needs to be cleaned up on it.
We
And
don't
so,
have-
That was an oversight, yeah, to remove the assistant,
Yeah,
the
the new
dispatcher
one.
supervisor, but I didn't even, yeah.
Got the new one here. The new one shows 9 dispatchers at $22,880.
But we're not paying dispatchers.
Well, we shouldn't even have that on here, should we?
No,
He said it was oversight.
yeah.
He said it was an oversight.
Yeah.
Oversight.
Yeah.
Okay, so we take the 9 dispatchers off and the 1 dispatch supervisor, right?
Yes, sir.
Take those off.
We take them out.
And what about secretary records?
Secretary record,
I believe all that has been moved. Mr. Etherly, is that, I know you proposed it.
what's that?
When you proposed contracting out dispatch services, that included record keeping and everybody, right? I think everybody's gone, other
Right,
than
right.
uniformed officers and
Dispatcher,
except,
secretary records?
Yeah, the county, as my understanding, has been keeping all of those.
okay, and the secretary, the executive secretary. I think they have nothing but uniformed officers and 1 executive secretary,
That's
and
probably-
everybody else is
yeah.
gone, yeah.
Yeah, they had, but everybody in dispatch, I think there was a total of 6 that we had on payroll at the time. They did away with all dispatch.
Take off secretary records and dispatchers, that's 13 at $22,880. We can subtract.
Yeah, but those people are already gone.
Yeah.
It's
It's not
gone.
in the
Yeah.
budget.
They're
It's
already,
base pay.
yeah,
It's
they're
already
already
been
gone.
taken off.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
they need
not
to
in
come
the
off.
budget.
Adrian, those positions, were in the budget, those salaries only, not fringe benefits, were a little over $297,000. So they reduced the budget by $297,000.
So we just cross this off.
Yeah, he said it was an oversight.
All right, where do we stand right now on what's our balance?
Within our claims or within the general
With this
fund?
new one, what do we got right now?
Can you say that again? I didn't hear with the general fund or the claims?
With the new budget, what do we have?
So,
Now we're going to the budget.
Whatever you know.
Let's finish up the base pay.
I don't think we'll begin to the base payment, Mr. St. Columbia.
I don't know what we're playing with right now.
Well, I think what we're doing is making corrections. Everybody's giving ideas of what the correction should be to the base pay. And then we'll come back with whatever changes that the city council recommended.
Yeah.
And then it may be another round. I explained, I've been here kind of a little bit, so I told them don't expect to get this passed tonight. Everybody's gonna have their input, and there's gonna be some changes that need to be made. And so we kind of knew that was gonna happen. So I don't believe, I didn't expect it to get passed tonight, so I don't know if he did or not.
I don't want to get too far down the road, but I had some items in the budget that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to pull off base pay until it's time.
I mean, unless I think we can jump in.
Personally, I think we need to keep the old 2022 base pay ordinance and take off those jobs that don't exist anymore, like the dispatchers, dispatch supervisors, and all. But I don't think we ought to change the base pay ordinance. I'm not for paying higher salaries. I'm sorry, but I move we keep the ordinance of the 2022 base pay ordinance. That's my motion.
I second it.
I have a few more questions
Sure.
first.
We'll answer and address the question and then move for a vote. Go ahead, Ms. Miller.
You didn't make some adjustments to this old.
Well, you can have discussion.
Yeah. No, you can go ahead, Ms. Miller, before we.
I guess if you guys will just bear with me for a second. Okay, so in the mayor's office, we discussed before the executive secretary takes the place of the HR clerical, right?
Yes.
Okay. So chief electrical janitor, security clerk. Okay, so in the city clerk's office, did you all say there's no chief deputy records pay person, or is that person still there?
That position is still there, it's just not filled right now.
It's not filled?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we did intend to fill that position.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. We did an amendment for the clerk's office. Didn't we raise it? Yeah, there's
Yeah.
another,
Yeah.
there's another amendment for the clerk's office.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I said we got all these pieces of paper.
Yep.
We raised it to,
You put it at 14 rather than 15. $14 an hour.
okay, what's that annually?
Uh,
26
20.
maybe, 27, 28, 30? I don't know,
I thought it
Hold
was,
on, I get you.
yeah.
Okay, so that position, even though it's not filled, there's an ordinance saying that it's
29.
26.
29?
Okay,
Okay, so
29.
we raised it to 29.
29,120.
Ms. Ramsey lost somebody in that office. She was looking to replace them, and we raised the hourly on that. So there needs to go on this one.
Okay, so treasurer's office, okay, city attorney, secretary, council members. All right, down here at the district court, so the clerk position that's on the 22 is now the chief court clerk?
Yes, it has always been, it's just, that has been an oversight as well, just like we forgot to change the chief of police to 70. That is the chief, district court clerk.
Okay.
It
So in
just
our
never was
list of, in our list of ordinance revisions, that's something we need to address. So far, the executive secretary, the chief court clerk, chief of staff is the same position, it's been there. Okay, so if we go over to the police department, we no longer have the dispatchers. That's the only area that really has any significant change, right? We just don't have
There
dispatchers.
one,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
No, the dispatchers, the dispatchers, secretary of records, and the chief.
When you say
Okay,
chief, you mean to reflect the salary?
Yeah, we changed the base pay on
Pay.
him.
Yeah,
Was it?
chief to
Yeah,
70.
Yeah, we changed the base pay on the chief.
on the chief
Right.
base pay, so that's gonna be one of those areas that we need to address in the new ordinance.
Right,
Right,
right.
okay, and we no longer have secretary records
Right.
positions. Okay, so that's a change.
Oh, we don't have a CID case manager either,
We don't?
No, we haven't had one.
since, what's his name? Some years ago.
Yeah. Now, do you want to leave it in there and hope to fill it?
I would hope we would. Phil.
Okay.
Well, maybe, well, okay, so he was a liaison between the police department and the prosecutor's office. He mainly would make sure that the prosecutor's office got all the documents on the case and assist them if they needed something in addition. He would go back to the police department if they needed additional documents. He would get it from whomever had it. And so he was like a liaison. I don't know if at this point you want to use that in favor of an officer, if you can put a uniformed officer on the street. And so, my suggestion would be if they're not asking for it, to just leave it out.
Okay, so let's just cross it out.
Right.
All
They'd
right.
have CID officers. This guy was not a CID officer. He was more clerical, but he would make sure documents got transferred from police department to the prosecutor's office.
Okay.
I don't know that it's a luxury that we
need right
that we need right now.
Okay.
We need more people on the street.
So in the fire department,
did-
everything stays the same except for battalion chief.
Ms. Miller, did you keep in the police department, the executive secretary? You have uniformed officer and you have should have one executive secretary.
Oh, and it's not in here.
Police
Well, that's the
department.
administrative assistant, I
Yeah,
think.
well, yeah.
Administrative assistant.
Oh, okay.
Like Ms. Esley said, that she's been called executive secretary, administrative assistant, all kinds of different things. So I don't know what the base
So
pay
do
has,
you
but.
need an ordinance revision to address that? You said her title is what?
No, you didn't mention it. I didn't know if you meant to, I thought it was executive secretary. I don't. In 22.
It's administrative assistant.
It's administrative assistant in the 22 ordinance. So I don't know if you want to keep that same, if the mayor or you want to keep the same title.
I mean, I think the title fits the work that she
Okay.
does in the office, yeah.
You just hadn't mentioned it. I was just making sure that you hadn't overlooked it.
Okay. So water and sewer, and that finance officer, so the finance officers in the 26 takes the place of the office manager / supervisor in 22?
Correct. The work that they do is accounts payable, so finance officers are just much more aligned to the job description than managing the office.
Okay, so that'll be something that in the new ordinance, we would address that, right? Okay. Supervisor, operations, okay, the executive assistant in 26 takes the place of
Now,
what
this
in
is-
22?
I think on the one pager, I put that this was the one position. Somebody is in this position, somebody that no longer works for the city created this position apparently, and the position was never addressed with an ordinance. So this would be a case of somebody working for the city that had a position that did not get derived from somewhere else.
This is a position that Mr. Esley told Mr. Murdoch
No?
100 times, do not hire, whoever was on the council at the time, Ms. Davis remembers, I don't know, I know it's Mr. Etherly primarily, told Mr. Murdoch, do not hire this executive
Oh,
sec, or
we sure
whatever.
did. We sure
Yeah,
did.
told him 1,000 times not to hire this person. And so, that's the person that he's,
Okay, so that needs to be.
it needs to be added,
Addressed and
Yes.
updated, okay.
And that
Supervisor,
person's still there.
yes.
okay. All right. Superintendents, assistant superintendent, clerks, laborers, meter reader.
I think you're gonna have more problems in the water department with, like I said, Mr. Etherly, when he was saying people may think they're in a certain position, and then they find out that they're in a totally different position. I think you're gonna find that more so in the water department than you do in the other ones. So you may need some help from Mr. Rose with,
Okay, is that a position we need?
Which
Is that
position?
the executive assistant, is that something that can be over in one of these other positions over here? In 22,
Timothy, the executive,
assistant?
I would say from my conversations with him, he really values that person. So I don't want to get into it like that, but maybe Mayor can talk to him. I think I know what his response is going to be.
yeah. And he's kind of alluded to the same thing to me as well.
Okay. Okay. Public Works, okay, so we're doing, there's no more of that, all right. And that would be part of the new ordinances, making a statement that we no longer have Public Works,
Correct.
all right? Okay. All right, former deputy director. Oops. Equipment. All right, labor, animal, okay, now, okay, I'm gonna leave that alone.
What, the labor and animal control?
Yeah, I'm on.
Do we still have
skip
that?
that
On
real
which
quick.
one?
Labor, animal control.
I
Okay,
think,
as long as we're doing ordinances and things, it's my personal opinion that the city does not own dogs. Okay? I understand that we have to control the animals. And I understand that there are organizations that rescue, they take care of dogs. How do we address, or do we even need to address, what the city's role is with that?
I think that's an ongoing, probably one of the top 3 efforts that the chief of staff and I, top 5, I would say, efforts that we have is focusing on animal control. I think, personally, I think that this is an area that we have not thought enough about recently. We have people out here getting bit by dogs. You have people getting chased by dogs. And so we don't own the dogs, no, and the money, even in the past fiscal year 2025, there was a line item for animal control that we did use, I think, to fund a spay and neuter clinic when Friends of the Delta Dog, that group, came to ask for funds. So again, this is 2 positions that are carried over from the base pay ordinance. No one is in those positions right now. But the chief of staff and I are looking at ways to either A, have support with establishing a shelter of some sort. We reached out to the Bissell Foundation as well, and I could be wrong on this, I'm not sure of what the financial relationship was between Bissell. This would have been the group that donated the animal shelter at one point to the city, and it was supposed to be a match. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, something of that nature.
Was that not a priority? What did we?
That's a very complicated thing I have to talk to you about later.
Okay.
But I'll say this on another issue. So one of our neighboring cities, Mariana, you know, I talked to someone who works. Their animal control person is a police officer, and from what it appears to me, it works well for them. They have their animals. They keep their animals for a certain number of days, and after a certain number of days, you know, if they're not claimed, they euthanize them.
and Mr. Miller, a few years ago, I don't know how long ago it was, but the municipal league, I was speaking with someone there, and what they recommended was either someone, you have animal control department, or police, or code enforcement, one of those. Shit. I don't know how he ended up in the street department in the first place, but.
And that's what they do, and I was told by someone that our local vet wouldn't do that, and I contacted, and so I asked the officer who does that. I said, well, who euthanized? He said, and he named our local vet. So I said, okay, well, that might not have been. We might have been misinformed. So
I think you summed up this discussion. It seems really, really simple, but I think you summed
and I know
up.
it's not always as easy.
About 2 years ago, I remember you said it this way. You said, we have to decide whether or not we're going to do animal rescue.
Yeah, or animal control.
Or
Animal
control.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Everybody wants the stray animals off the street, but nobody agrees on what should happen to them after they get picked up.
That's right.
And that's where the fight starts, once you pick them up.
Yeah.
The only reason why you have to have a shelter is because we have a housing requirement in the ordinance.
Yeah.
I've said for years, if you remove the housing requirement, you don't have to worry about a shelter.
That's right.
But of course, some people really want to do animal rescue. And some people just want them out of their yards and out of their neighborhoods, and they don't care what happens after you get them. And so that's the discussion. That's the real discussion right there.
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Hessler. They adopt them, those that are, adoptable, and those that are not, they euthanize.
And I know in most cities that's the approach that's pretty standard in most cities. If a dog is rescued and taken to a shelter, an owner has some time to reclaim them, they get adopted or they get euthanized, and I think that is a pretty standard. It's pretty standard. What the chief and staff and I have talked about for days on end has just been wanting to make sure we want to make sure we're spending effort into rescuing as well. I think that, I personally think that the way we think about animals in Helena-West Helena, we can improve in the dignity that we treat them with. And I don't think, again, I've said this at a city council meeting, or not city council, a town hall, I don't think that means we need to walk them around with skirts and tutus on, no, but it's a very real issue that we should treat, because it is, at the end of the day, it's a safety hazard for the residents that live here as well as the animals themselves. So moving it around moving the positions around outside the street and sanitation department, Mr. Turner, myself, the chief of staff, we talked about that. I do feel like there are ways that could happen. I don't necessarily want to see us, even if those positions aren't filled yet, I don't necessarily want to see us abolish those positions. And I think that just within being intentional, we can establish a rescue effort first, and if need be, move forward with maybe making sure we control. So it's an ongoing effort, but that's the approach I would personally like to take.
I just don't want us to end up in a position where we're expected to hold on to dogs at the cost of the city.
Understood.
If I have and God forgive me, if I have the choice to feed a dog for 2 years or get a street paved, I want my street paved. Sure. I love dogs. I don't have one because I don't have the time to take care of one. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people who get dogs, they're cute for the first couple of weeks, then they turn them loose. And so that has created the chaos in our city. But I think I see it a little bit different from you. I think you need a strong animal control department that, hey, if you can help and assist with some rescue, that's cool too. But the control, because, I've seen the bites like you have on Facebook. They're around here biting people, chasing people. People are trying to protect themselves. Why should the city house those dogs, take care of those dogs for an extended amount of time when the city collectively don't own them dogs? Right. those dogs belong to people who aren't taking care of them.
Some, absolutely.
Ms. Miller, would you like to see, or any other council members, would you like to see like some animal control officers in the base pay and just not funded in the budget? Like they're in the base pay. I'm not saying this one in particular, but would you guys like to see animal control officers, but then just don't add them to the budget until the time?
I would, yeah. I would be in favor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean-
Until what time?
Until the time you decide to, or the mayor or who the city council decides to.
I mean, from my perspective, we shouldn't create any new obligations over this next year. That's my perspective. From the perch that I had, we probably shouldn't create new obligations. We should just focus on paying the ones that we have. However, long term, yeah, we should have animal control. I would add this, I don't want to take all these left turns, but at that first town hall, there was a gentleman who got up and talked about dogs and what he could do, I kind of cringed at some of the things that were being said. I'll tell you that. I don't think any citizen should take this into their own hands.
Yeah.
They should call law enforcement. But our ordinance says if a dog is vicious, it can be destroyed immediately. And I think that people need to have that in mind, but I don't think citizens should be the ones to do that. They should call law enforcement and let somebody else stand in and take over. But we don't have to. Most of the dog attacks, if you go back and look, most of them had owners. They weren't strays, they had owners. Most of the ones that get reported in the news and in the newspaper, they knew, and this is the owner. And so, but vicious dogs don't have to be housed or anything, and that's in the ordinance. And so I think we should also keep that in mind. So if there are vicious dogs that are being reported, I would say I guess nobody really knows what to do, but it's pretty clear to me. Call the police department. Tell them we got a vicious dog over here. We need somebody to take care of it.
The ordinance, I think, makes it clear when you know whose dog it is. We just had an incident where somebody was bit last week, and police officers went out, got the first and last name of the residents, and that's an issue that can go through district court now because they have that information. Right. But when it's a random stray dog, that's where it's a little more tricky.
Right.
So is that something that we need? I think we do need to leave it. Do we need to do any amendment in any ordinance based?
What department is it in?
That's what I was going to ask.
Do we want it in street and sanitation, or do we want it in
code?
police?
Do you want code?
I would think code.
Code, okay.
Do we have? No, we don't have an animal control on the base pay, do we? Because we don't have a
in the old base pay, it's also under the street department.
Okay. So y'all want in code enforcement?
I would think so.
That's fine. I don't have a preference. Code.
Okay, so there's no longer sanitation. So landfill. Okay, so the foreman for the landfill, that is the same thing as the general manager?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Equipment
The
operator.
foreman, I thought when the general manager be the director of the landfill?
No. So the 2025 ordinance has deputy director and then general manager. So.
No,
yeah.
okay, I was talking about 26, okay, my
Yeah.
bad.
So the general manager, to keep the language consistent, that position was renamed to a foreman to keep the language consistent with deputy director, yeah.
Okay, so do we need to make that amendment in the new the new ordinance?
I believe
And then-
since it's a change, yes.
And then the equipment operators, we went from 4 to 5. Is that a necessary thing to make an amendment or a change, or we can leave it the way it is?
So the landfill,
Well, it's got 4 in the 22, but we've got 5 in
the
the
26.
26.
Equipment officer.
Yeah, equipment operators.
The landfill's operations have increased because of the tonnage that they've been able to take in. I did invite Mr. Wilson here to maybe if he wanted to share a few words just about the expansion of the landfill and why having just one additional operator might help out with the efficiency there.
Well, I was really asking for two. We're getting ready to start probably in March on a new sale out there at the landfill. We have several projects that we'll be taking on, new projects that's going to grant us some more revenue out there, and we just need additional folks. We, with the people that we have out there now, if somebody took off, then we would be at a loss. And right now, we're at I guess, we can't work like if we're hauling dirt. We have to haul dirt for half a day and then have them haul leachate. So we just need some additional folks out there to do our tasks efficiently and effectively.
And so this is your addendum down here, where it talks about pay based on experience, $13 an hour for 2 years or less, 14 for 3 to 4 years, and 15 for 5 or more.
No, I don't think I put that in there, but I think that was in the last ordinance.
That was in the last ordinance.
Yeah.
What was the question?
So this addendum at the bottom, where it talks about the years of experience and how much your salary would reflect that.
That was also in the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in the last ordinance.
Do you currently have 3 operators right now or 4?
We have, well, if you're gonna take in the hand that Bruce Simpson, he's out there, which I wanted to put him as the deputy director out there. So really, I just have 3 operators.
So the base pay, yeah, and so Mr. Simpson is in the role that was the general manager, which
Right.
is being, for consistent language, is being called the foreman, which means that there is a position, a 4th position that just hasn't been hired for.
Right.
And then creating a 2nd one.
Right.
Would feel.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay. So in that sense, were you, and I'm just wanting to make sure for clarity, were you asking 2 as in?
To hire 2 more operators.
So 1 more is already in the base pay?
Right, and I'm just asking for
the
1.
body would need to add 1 more position?
Right, correct.
Yeah.
So that would be 6?
No, just 5.
Just 5.
Five, it'd be
Just
5.
5,
Yeah,
okay.
Just 5.
Okay, and so did we agree, or are we gonna move animal control over to code enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
We are, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That just helps me, thank you. Okay, so, starting from the front page, the new ordinance needs to reflect the changes for executive secretary, city clerk, the chief deputy, not filled position, or no? The district court, the chief court clerk, the change in the police department for the chief, the dispatchers, the secretary of records, the CID case manager, in the fire department, the battalion chief, in the water and sewer, the finance officers, executive assistant, and there was something else down here.
You got the supervisor, operations management. Well, never mind. We said
It was I put an asterisk and now I forgot what it was. Under water and sewer, there was a P or an RW position. Public works. Okay, that's what it was, okay. Omit that, okay. Street and sanitation director, then we talked about the change of code enforcement to, animal control to code enforcement. In the landfill, the foreman, from general manager, and then the equipment operators, up to 5. Is that everything? So Attorney Ethel, are you saying that what we need to do is an ordinance that would take into account all of those changes at one time?
Yeah, I think that makes it clean, you know. I would like to see it all in one document. Because if you don't, again, you'll have like this doesn't have the changes to police, it doesn't have the changes to the clerks, it doesn't have all those different things in it. And so you've got a bunch of documents that we did adopt, and then some of them just need to be changed anyway, like battalion chief and the fire department, just so we know exactly what we have when we adopt the budget. And the budget should line up with the base pay ones. Because for people who are listening and don't understand, base pay creates the position and sets the entry-level pay. The budget funds it, actually gives the authority to pay. So if it's not in base pay, it doesn't exist. And if it's not in the budget with a number beside it, it's not funded, even if it exists in the base pay limit, so you got to fund it. And I want all those things to line up.
Well, having discussed that, okay, in the city clerk's office, you know, even though it's not filled, so do we need to adjust the 24 to 29?
It should be whatever that new base pay.
Okay, so we need to make that change. And then as far as the mayor's office, the chief of staff's position.
You don't mean the position, you mean the amount.
The
base
amount,
pay.
yes.
And you didn't mention the patrol officer entry level, that has to be adjusted also.
And on the patrol level, entry level, and the fireman, the firefighter entry level, the patrolman first class, and the fireman first class, we generally, even though, I don't know what the base pay says, it may say 5 and 5, but we generally pool those so it's 10 of them in any combination. Because they have to, you know, when you get hired, you have to go to the academy and so you get extra pay. So it's kind of hard to determine, like if I got a person that's in the academy, I can't hire nobody else, or something like that, because I already got firefighter first class, or 4 entry level, you know what I'm saying? So it's the same way in police and fire, those are grouped together.
Well, do we want to do a range then for, a couple of these?
I think I'm in favor of doing a range, but if we did a range, I think that should be the system for every position, or classes for every position. So the purpose of and with saying that, the purpose of putting out a base pay ordinance proposal tonight was to have an attempt to clean up everything, try to make sure that the street and sanitation department can take their next step to getting ready to run a lot more optimally, and as well, making sure that where appropriate, that salary was reflective for those 2 individuals, street and sanitation director and chief of staff. So, but I am in favor of a range, because I do think, having dealt with the base pay for the last month, it's, again, being mindful of salaries is great, and I do think that's always the prudent thing to do, but I think a base pay ordinance is also, it kind of limits us in terms of just getting a move on certain things. So, and it also doesn't account for, I think we said this in the last meeting, just qualifications and the skills that a person may bring, so.
I think the reason why, and I'm going to be just transparent with you, the thing that concerns me is setting it at 68 is this. What do we do if and when there is another administration come through. And that person decides that they may want to go in a different direction, that new mayor. And they want their own chief of staff and all of that. And let me think how to say this. So that person may or may not have the experience that would warrant a $68,000 a year salary. But they may be somebody that, say, the mayor wants to use in that position, that they want to train the way they want to train, the way that, I mean, there's a lot of variables in that. That's the reason why I guess I'm struggling to just, flat out say every chief of staff is going to make 68. Because truth be told, from my constituents, one of the things that I got fussed at a lot about was the salary of chief of staff. People just had concerns about it, And I don't necessarily think we need to bend to every citizen, on every, thing, but that was valid. I think we just need to be a little bit more cautious with this.
And I agree that caution is key. I feel like it's been a whirlwind of decisions administratively that have put us here. And so the number of times that I've had people say, clean house, there's not enough, the city has to function, and salary alone cannot be the only thing that we address to right our ship in course of direction. I think that there's a trail of mismanagement in a lot of ways. That's how we get here. So I just want to, and I agree with you, Ms. Maxine, but I also just want to say, on the record, I don't think paying competent people is an issue. I think it's how are we managing with a raise? Is it a responsible raise? Is it a responsible bonus? Is this something that we can afford long term? These are questions that have to be answered every day from this office, and so I'm seeing that these financial exchanges happen, and so it goes beyond the salary. And so my hope is that none of you leave the table today thinking that 2 salaries for 2 competent individuals will bankrupt the city. That's not going to happen, and we don't want to set the precedent either. So I think moving forward, and I spoke about this earlier today, ranges, having a salary range for exactly the same reason that you said, because how do we account? I don't think the base pay ordinance is the neatest, cleanest way to have a position created, to get somebody a salary that they deserve. We want the best people, and I think when you get somebody good, I think that you do everything you can to keep them reasonably so. And so moving forward, I think the base pay ordinance right now, or in the near future, can get us cemented into making sure we keep operating. But I think long term, having a range or class system for jobs, I'm on board with that. Go ahead.
Update me on the chief of staff. What's his function?
Chief of staff is a busy man. He functions as part of IT. So we both manage our City of Helena-West Helena Facebook page with important updates. He serves as a liaison between all the departments, and he sits through those meetings, whether we are trying to further an agenda with outdoor recreation or whether we're having an all department head meeting. So essentially, where I am, he goes as well. He is heading grant management. So we've had a couple grants successfully not administered, but we've had a couple of grants successfully submitted because of his work in due diligence. He's created forms to make sure that the city has one central place to voice their concerns. And I acknowledge that the chief of staff he's working. He's working, and he's a qualified individual. I didn't necessarily offer him the role because of any personal reason. He's a very qualified young man that brings a lot to the table, and I think he's shown that within the last 3 months that he's been here. I do acknowledge that how the chief of staff position has been used has created questions, and I'm open about acknowledging that, and I understand that. A chief of staff is a completely normal, warranted position in a lot of cities where that person helps the mayor, as kind of Mr. Turner said, in a myriad of ways, further their agenda. So he's walking door to door with me. He's leading town halls with me. He is an arm if I'm planted somewhere for a call that I can't leave. He's an arm and 2 feet that can walk somewhere else for me. So he's
Well, I was
he's
wondering, is there a job of all these people that we have that he could take their place?
In what way? Do you in what way?
Any way.
You mean replace somebody that's already on payroll, or remove an individual and
Maybe remove somebody and put him in that place and do the same thing he's doing now as the chief of staff. And all these people that we have. I mean, I think you need a chief of staff, but I mean, we need to save $65,000 real quick. 68,000.
I mean, I think too, that position is definitely necessary. I get that. But I'm not sure, okay, the mayor is the absolute last stop for all decisions, day-to-day operations. His signature goes on all the paperwork. I don't know that we've ever had to hunt down a chief of staff for his signature. So I guess what I'm saying is that that's a lot of monetary weight placed on a position that functions under the top. And especially when you look at the way the salaries are, your mayor makes less than your chief of staff in this ordinance. And yet the mayor's signature, his authority, his position, his everything takes the top seat to everything in the city. I think I'm just looking at it from a balance. I mean, I could see if you raised, the mayor's salary.
I mean,
and then
that
brought
is
down the you know what I'm saying? I mean, it would make more sense on paper to me. Although I'm not advocating raising anything right now. I'm just saying on paper it would make more sense.
I think there's a remedy that's already built into the base pay ordinance. And it's the part that says after 180 days, the employee is eligible for a pay increase. That's not me committing to a pay increase. I'm just saying it addresses the entry level concern. After 180 days, you can deal with whatever it is that you have under whatever circumstances you have. So you don't have to raise the chief of staff's pay above the mayor's pay. But that's Article 3 in the base pay ordinance, by the way. It says that every employee is eligible for a pay increase after 180 days. And so you get to that point. I think I hate to say it this way, but if you could sell it to the body and the circumstances are there, the money is there, then there's an opportunity. But that's not a commitment for me on any particular item, other than to listen.
I do, if there are no extra comments, I do know that Mr. St. Columbia did make a motion that was seconded by Mr. Messina. And was that to adopt the 2022 base pay as the current base pay, if I remember correctly?
I think that's what we're talking about.
That's
So-
the original,
The original?
making those, title changes, you know,
Would you still like to make that motion, Mr. St. Columbia?
we don't, are you going to, reprint the thing and bring it to the next council meeting?
I'll do one better. The plan is with the changes to make these over the next 24 hours. So that's the plan.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I withdraw my motion. You withdraw the second.
Withdraw myself.
If you're gonna reprint the thing,
I'll put it in your emails first so that you all can have it before you go home this weekend.
that way we'll have it at the next meeting to
Yes.
vote on it.
Yeah. We've been in touch with all the departments heads this week, so changes that were talked about
Name-
tonight won't be
yeah,
hard to
the
make.
Title changes.
May I ask the council, address the council about the mayor's pay? The mayor's are, so, my personal opinion, I don't know how he feels about it, but this is my personal opinion. If he's and I don't know, you guys' opinion about mayors in the future, but you had the previous mayor was making 70, he's making 70. I guess the chief of staff, not chief of staff, but the police chief and all of that, they were making 70. I'm thinking it's 48 because he's trying to show people, hey, I'm not doing this for the money, blah, blah, blah. But if that's what he's currently making and the previous one making, I kind of tend to agree with Miss and want to know if this is one of the changes that you want to make is with Miss Miller is that if it looks better and it's already what's happening, is that he is making 70, so it seems like the base pay should reflect it. Just despite how he feels about, I mean, well, I don't mean it like that, how you feel about it, but I think I tend to agree with you that if that's what he's making, that's probably what it should reflect.
Change the numbers in the
Yeah,
base pay.
yeah, just change the number in the base pay.
Reflect the same thing that's in the budget.
Yes. So he won't make the changes to the base pay to try to get you guys to pass it, and that's still not passed. And that's something that you and I'm pretty sure some other council members agree with. So to make sure he comes in here with a number that looks good or whatever, that's why I'm asking.
I'm confused.
Okay, so in the base pay, the mayor's at 48. Mayor's making 70. Ms. Miller wondered why the chief of staff would be making more than the mayor. At least on paper was her comment, at least on paper. Why would the chief of staff's base pay be more than the mayor's base pay? But what I'm saying is in actuality, that's not the case. And so I'm saying that the base pay should reflect that the mayor's making 70. I don't know what you guys want to do in the future, new administrations or whatever, but I tend to agree with Ms. Miller, with Ms. Miller is that the mayor's salary should, and the base pay should be $70,000.
But
And then you put the chief of staff or whatever you guys,
So does that mean that everything else has to be changed, the other, like department heads?
no, all I'm saying is I agree with her. I don't think that the chief of staff's base pay salary should be more than the mayor's. That's all I'm saying.
So that's two potential base pay raises to look at, because doing that would essentially mean whichever mayors in the future come, that's their base pay. So it's not simply just to reflect that for now, but so that's putting two potential base pay changes there.
And I guess that's the question I was asking.
What is the chief of staff making now?
The 2022 salary that you see there, which would be 32.
That's obviously too low.
Come again?
To me, that's obviously too low for someone with a master's degree.
Yeah.
I think that's a little too low. So we've been around in circles and talking about if we think that 68 is too high. So what is a fair salary for chief of staff?
I think for a young, educated, hardworking person, I think 68 is fair to ask for. And I mean, that's.
Well, I'm asking Ms. Miller, what's a fair salary?
I certainly think that 32, but once again, I'm asking for job descriptions, resumes, experience, all that. 32, okay, I would say that that is relatively low. I could see possibly a salary range between, say, at the lowest, maybe 45, and then up to maybe 60, 65, something like that. But it would be a range, and it would be, commensurate with experience.
I agree with that. I think 45 to 50 is about the right.
But who at whose discretion?
What do you mean?
You have a range, who decides the range?
I think the range would be based on this little, there's a little piece at the bottom, and I don't know who did it, but I thought it was a great idea. The equipment operators, they talk down here about experience. The hour for 2 years, the hour for 4 years, the hour for 3 years, the hour for 5 or more years. I mean, that puts it at a way, and I guess, yeah, I guess there is some subjective stuff to that too. Because a person coming in who's a chief of staff, I mean, are you looking at clerical? Are you looking at organizational? Are you looking, I mean, what are you looking for? And to that point, I would think we need some sort of, job title, job description. This is what you're responsible for. The mayor has one.
Yeah, and that, I don't know if there was one for the chief of staff prior to me getting here, but I did create a new one when hiring Mr. Kevin Martin Arnold, and it does. So when I send out the new or revised base pay ordinance, I'll definitely make sure I include that attachment in there. But HR, you're talking about constructing a new code handbook that has been out of date since 2008 that he's leading the charge for. You're talking about making sure that he's in the program now, ALICE, asset limited income constrained but employed. In other words, people that have jobs but maybe living check to check. We're expanding and thinking about ways to support those city employees that fall into that category. He's taking on hours in that cohort, a cohort to help us secure future planning for outdoor recreation and trail development. We're in that cohort together now. So I'll definitely attach that job description, but I think in today's economy, even here in Helena-West Helena, I think 68 is I don't want to say moderate, but I think that's a fair ask for him. And again, I understand, and I feel like I've said this at some other point today, that the city of Helena-West Helena has had a really not so smooth relationship with finances. And I think that anytime we talk about salaries, we have enough examples to talk about where things did not work out. I definitely am sensitive enough to think about that and know just where we are. He's a qualified person, done great work. I think this is the type of individual that, like I picked him, and I'm not easily impressed, and I don't just say that because I knew him prior to his hiring, but the type of individual that can help move a city forward. And so, so the description is long, and chief of staffs end up eventually doing things not even listed there. But I will make sure that description is put into the attachment when I do the revised base pay ordinance for 2026. I can definitely do that. You don't have to raise your hand.
This is not exactly a base pay question.
Okay.
But February of last year, I mentioned to our chief of staff, the guardrail on Midland Heights and Valley Drive, this was in February, we need to take care of that. It is a disgrace. A car's gonna go off in the damn ditch down in there. Somebody's gonna get killed. If you go and look at it, it is busted, it's in terrible condition. That would be a great project for the chief of staff. Get to call the state of Arkansas and get that fixed. It's been like that for more than a year. But I asked in February, and they said, oh yeah, we can get that fixed. We'll have something done shortly. I'll call the state and get it done. It's never done. And here it'll be February around
He did call the state. They have been down and looked at it. We work on their schedule. They don't work on ours.
well, we need to know something here on city council that something's been done.
Well, y'all did know. It was on Facebook, and y'all were told, and they have been contacted, and we can reach out and see where we are on their list. They don't work on our schedule.
Okay.
Well, I mean, and to I thought Attorney Etherly gave us sounds like a good solution to me. I mean, establish a base pay of, whatever, up to 68 or 65 or something like that. And then have the language in there that, we're looking at this kind of experience. Start them at the base pay, and then after 180 days, they have the opportunity to get a raise or increase in pay or whatever. And then that sort of meeting in the middle, don't you think? Or
Well, I guess, let me be just about as honest as I can be. Because I told the treasurer, I told Mr. Turner this before he was hired. I didn't know who was coming into that position. But I told Mr. Turner, I said, that new base pay ordinance was voided, and we go back to the old one. I said, the chief of staff was in the public works position. I said, so the new person who comes in, make sure everybody knows that person is in a $55,000 slot. And so my expectation was that he would come in at 55. He, she, whoever it was, would come in under that 2022 base pay ordinance at 55. And I conveyed that to Mr. Turner before anybody filled that position. So I did not know he was at the 32. I thought he was at 55.
So how did we get from 55 to 32?
Because they took the title. This is why I keep telling people don't follow the titles, follow the position. Because he took the title. And that's why we're here cleaning up this base pay budget stuff. Because I remember it one way, I know where it came from, I know its origin. Some people just look at the paper and see the title and they go. So that's exactly why I wanted to have these conversations about the titles and position. I'm saying that to say, at the end of the day, if that was my honest expectation, I'm not going to back down from that here. That was my expectation, but I'm not inclined to go beyond my expectations either. And so I just want to share my position on that. I thought he would have come in that public work slot and make the 55.
So question. So then if he's at 32, then how did it go from 32 to somewhere between 42 and 48 with Ms. Halbert?
Which
The chief of staff.
how did it go from 32 to 48?
Yeah, because she was at least at 40 something
Who you?
for chief of staff.
She received
She was given a raise.
Okay, she was given a raise.
Which
It's
the
happened.
yeah. She got
She
some.
got a
some-
raise.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I think her pay was because she had been here a few years, and her pay was significantly above that.
That's true, because she was at the other administration too.
Yeah, so. Now, I'll tell you the issue that's down the road is because Public Works was overarching street and sanitation. The kind of the elephant in the room is the sanitation director and what the sanitation director comes in. Because I think all of these things, one affects the other. And so I'm just throwing it out there for,
What do you mean by sanitation?
I keep saying, don't look back at what we used to do, because I think that's a faulty way of assessing where we actually are. So I'm looking back at where we used to be. And I'm seeing that we had two, what should have been in the old base pay ordinance, public works, and then deputy directors. I know we had a director, but I'm saying if you go back to that old base pay, you'll have a person who takes on that level of pay. Then you'll have a director, and your proposed pay for that director is 70. And so it's kind of,
You had the director, then you had deputy directors for each. You had a sanitation deputy director,
yeah.
street deputy director, and the landfill deputy director.
In the 22 ordinance, you had public works. He was the director, and then you had deputy directors. So you, in my mind, that person is really going over to administration. And now somebody comes in and you don't have two deputy directors, but you have somebody coming in who's making an elevated level of pay. And
When you say going to administration, are you referring to the public works position?
yeah, that level of pay is going into administration. It's being inserted into administration.
Oh.
I'm using the ordinance now.
Yeah.
I'm using the ordinance. Yeah, it's being inserted into administration. So that may be a conversation for a different day.
So right now, you like to make, in the 26 ordinance, the base pay for the chief of staff 55.
That's not what I said. What I said is, since I thought that, I wouldn't oppose it. I don't, I'm not
I was just
saying-
asking.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't oppose it because that's what I thought.
Okay.
I've been under the impression all this time he was making 55 from the public works lot. And that's because of the conversation we had. And I said, hey, the person coming in this position is at 55.
Yeah.
So
But-
that was my, yeah.
But the reason I asked was because I wasn't trying to, but
Yeah.
you said that it's moving into admin, right? So that's why I was asking, and you said you want to move the salary into admin. So I'm thinking that you're saying just move that 55 into the chief of staff position in the new ordinance.
Well, I'm saying that's the way he's going to be used.
Okay.
So that's where he would go in administration. Yeah. So. Whichever.
Any other discussion, comments, questions?
So, if I understand correctly, we're gonna go back and make the requested modifications, and then there will be a range for the chief of staff.
I don't know if we agreed on the range. I know Ms. Miller mentioned that, but I don't know if that's what the body agrees on or would support. I think Mr. Etherly said 55 was his, I mean, maybe there's a range, but 55 would be his ceiling, and so I don't know. I think we already have to revisit that.
But the thing on the range is you have to have some parameters. I'm not talking about Mayor Whitfield, but sometime in the future, if the range is 65 to 85, then every mayor's probably gonna say $85,000. Nobody's gonna pick the bottom number, so there should be some kind of parameter saying, like Ms. Miller said, has this type of experience, this education level, whatever. Now, I don't know how long it's gonna take to come up with that. I know when we did the landfill, I mean, they had some discussions. It wasn't just the next day. It kind of went on for a couple of 2 or 3 weeks maybe before they finally figured out what kind of parameters they wanted to use to determine if you're going to get so much coming in, so much coming in, so much coming in. But like I said, if it's from 65 to 85 and there are no parameters, every mayor is going to, the base pay is 85.
So what's the consensus? Do we want to just set it at a flat 55 or a range?
I don't like a range without direction.
I can create a formula.
That's just me. I prefer to just set it at a number.
I can create a formula.
I mean, the 55 is, I mean, that's not
Years of
crazy,
experience,
you know.
degree.
You know. What do you think?
55 to me sounds good, like your assistant was saying. I tell you, $50,000 ain't a bad salary anywhere.
Or do you think it would be helpful for, if we could just get the basic changes and things made first, and then maybe come back and discuss specific salary on those positions?
I think that that could be helpful, and I don't want to keep kicking the can down the street, but I will get the changes made tonight, and then if we need to have another special meeting just for those two positions, we can do that. But in the meantime, I'll also speak to those individuals as well to see what level of compromise we can have.
What were the
But
positions?
the-
chief of staff and
and these combined street and sanitation director, those were only two salary changes.
I thought we was already, I thought we was good on that.
I hate to beat a dead horse, but I just want to be certain. Okay. If there is no, so we're going by, so we're going to have, so we're still using, you want him to come back with some kind of budget, base pay changes, right?
The ones we discussed tonight.
Just the
Okay,
ones that Ms. Miller went over.
okay, so, okay, I got it.
And
I
then
got
we're
it.
gonna talk about those two salaries at another time.
Okay. Because he's already hired, that's what I was, okay, the person is already in the position, okay.
Well, once those changes are made, that will also be reflected within the projected salaries, which that can be a plug and drop situation. It won't be too difficult to do that. So it really is just making sure that we are all in alignment with the base pay ordinance changes, and we can move forward from there for the 2026 year. So,
Is this new street and sanitation person working?
coming in?
Has the new street and sanitation director hired?
No, not yet, no. So we're still, right now on the street, and right now, we're still operating on the 22 ordinance. The public works position is not filled. Every department is operating as their own director. And the street and sanitation departments are both functioning with one interim director, Mr. Strada. If there is, go
I
ahead.
want to ask Mr. Esley before we leave, I know he said he had a budget
Oh,
question.
yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
something
you
we can,
did.
I know you like to leave too.
Yeah, I have a number of items in the
Okay.
budget so I don't know if we want to take this up later. I mean, because that's a whole different discussion when we start talking about the actual lines in the budget. I don't want
Well,
to
yeah.
drag this out until tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was going to take you 5 minutes or 45. That's why I was asking, did you want?
It's not 45, but it ain't 5.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If
What's the
there-
tentative date, then,
We
when
want
do
to
we
take
want to
this
come
up later.
back and finish this? I mean, will it be this week? I guess I'm asking do I need to block some time off?
If the body can commit, I can be flexible this week because I definitely want to urgently get these things resolved as well. So the changes will be reflected tonight, and how soon we can meet depends on the body. I do recommend this week just because there are some time-sensitive things. But like one, the hire for the street and sanitation department is pressing and urgent, so that I think the term I used last time was just culture change. We can move forward with that. So the sooner the better.
So that would be Wednesday or Thursday?
Or do we have schedule conflicts on this week? I'm not sure. And so what I can do is the same thing I did last time. I'll do it through email just because I know 8 people's schedules right now. might be difficult, so I'll send out another email tonight as well. Go, Mr.
I kind of think if you got them here, you ought to
Yeah.
ask them right now.
Commit to it.
Yeah, because everybody doesn't
Can-
respond to email as fast as,
We did a good job last time, but I agree. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, during the day even is
Not
possible.
Friday.
Not Friday, okay,
Wednesday, Thursday, and I like the 5:30. That's a little bit earlier.
okay.
How does that work for y'all? Is that not good for y'all?
that's fine for me.
So we're saying Wednesday? Okay,
You want to say Wednesday, 5:30?
that's fine.
Yeah, so
Oh,
tomorrow,
that's it.
yeah, tomorrow won't work because we have a town hall.
Okay, so
if-
Thursday?
If people could do Thursday, Thursday works. Thursday's good? So,
5:30? Thursday, 5:30? Is that okay for y'all?
Thursday at 5:30 is fine for me.
okay.
5 o'clock?
Is 5
5
o'clock,
o'clock?
is 5 o'clock possible?
Yeah.
5 o'clock is possible, on Thursday.
I'll be dragging in, I'll be honest. It's kind of hard for me at 5.
We'll go for later.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I suggested in the email 5:30, and then I still was dragging in about 5:34, so, I mean.
So we will reconvene on Thursday at 5 o'clock to go over the base pay ordinance changes as well as the budget. Thursday, yeah.
This coming
This
Thursday?
coming Thursday, the
I'll be out
15th.
of town, I won't be here.
Okay.
I'm out of town. Have a doctor's appointment, a little long.
Okay. If there are no other comments or questions, is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Motion- Meeting adjourned.